low. Bitcoin around 58K, a little bit under. Fear and greed still at 25, but that's a bit of a lagging indicator, so we ignore that. This is a different type of fear we'll talk about today. And a disclaimer, this is not financial advice, of course. And this video is dedicated to Jack. Our thoughts go out to Wraith, a community member, and Patreon. Still at 25, but that's a bit of a lagging. Jack had 14 amazing years on the planet. He passed this week. Sending lots of love to you and your family, Wraith. Thank you for all you do, and he is a super cute puppy. I love his eye patch. And shout out to Paul Stewart as well. Thank you for joining Patreon. Let's talk about Bitcoin monthly returns. So far, yes, July, sucky, still down 7%. A little bit worse than June, down 6.8%, but still, we're going to make it through. And I'll show you some things that prove that as well. Let's get into the news first, then a whole bunch of charts, and then a quick update on the ETFs. First of all, a lot of excitement is brewing around the Bitcoin conference in just 13 days. It's going to be the world's largest Bitcoin conference, and it's kicking off in Nashville, Tennessee. If I was closer, I'd probably actually go myself, but it's difficult for me to get there, especially with the schedule that I have going on. But 2 presidential candidates are going. As I've been saying before, too, Bitcoin is on the ballot for this presidential season, and it's going to be exciting to watch. Also, for a brief time this morning, everything is fluid in these markets, but for a brief time, and continued so, El Salvador held more Bitcoin than Germany. But there's better news regarding Germany coming. And El Salvador are still buying 1 Bitcoin a day. They're stacking 1 a day. Wouldn't it be lovely to be in a position to be able to stack 1 Bitcoin a day? And Auf Wiedersehen, German government. Bye-bye. See you later. Never, I hope. That took us down. That took us below the 200-day moving average. That took us below the short-term holder cost basis. That gave us all a kick in the teeth. And that's just how crypto works. The question is there another? Billy, thank you for coming. And shout out to Archie, too, from Bitcoin Archive. Archie Archive, get it? I think his name is Archie. The German government sold all its Bitcoin. Send it. And it did. Bitcoin did pump. It's retracting back. But I think it could be a good weekend unless we get another headwind. Let's talk about that in a minute. But in the meantime, and by the way, for the 10,000th time, I know from Arkham, it's an Upbit wallet. The question is, who owns it? The wallet is not the behavior of a centralized exchange. So please stop pestering me. I know what it is, and I know how this behavior runs, and I've analyzed all the cold wallets for 5 years for all the big exchanges. This is not the behavior of a stock exchange wallet. This is the behavior of somebody stacking, somebody timing exactly when to buy, and buying in very specific increments with great regularity. Again, I am 99% sure that this is not a centralized exchange wallet. Also, it's the top 10 wallet now, and it has like $6 or $7 billion in it. So there's not many exchanges other than Binance that could afford that. But these guys, whoever it is, whether it's a sovereign out of the Middle East or Michael Dell or whoever, they have bought 900 more Bitcoin over the last 3 days. Big stack. And they get more aggressive every time the price dips. Another case in point, and I made a whole video on why it's not a CEX wallet, centralized exchange wallet, CEX. Hope that didn't come out funny. Now, let's talk about the potential for the next dump, because this video is about fear, and people are very rattled. But here is from Genesis Trading. This is a wallet labeled Genesis Trading, has transferred $760 million worth of Bitcoin to Coinbase in the past month. It still holds 1.9 billion available to dump. And of course, when people see this, they get, oh no, it's another Germany. No, it's smaller. It's also part of a bankruptcy. It's also run by a financial shop that has connections to OTC desks and can do sidebar arrangements. It will not dump on the market, and the release over the last month did not impact the price of Bitcoin, most probably not as well. Mr. Mike, happy Friday, brother. Guinness for you tonight, I hope. So remember that. Don't be too concerned. There is a little bit of bad news, though, because we were talking about Germany and the US And now we're talking about the UK. And this from, again, Bitcoin Archive. A UK bank refuses to accept funds converted from Bitcoin. They ask you, where's the money come from? They want an audit trail of where you got your cash. And if you fill it out honestly and say, oh, I sold 3 Bitcoin to buy a house in the UK, they will deny you a mortgage or not let you buy the house. It's so, I don't know. I'm very sorry for anybody here who is out there in the UK. Be careful who you bank with. We've covered this many times. Work with a bank that's crypto friendly. Stay away from those that are not. Obsidian, good to see you, buddy. So that's the UK news. And in Bitcoin news, a little bit of on-chain stuff. Bitcoin traffic is pretty much a ghost town right now. And inscriptions and runes usage is from Bitcoin Pro magazine, by the way. The inscriptions and runes usage is once again disappearing, which could explain the drop in fees and the mempool and the activity. You can look at some of these numbers over 30 days. Mempool down 27%, fees down 75%, inscriptions down 30%, runes down 92%. Again, these things, these NFT things, rune things, are always fly by night. So be careful if you play with them. It's, very dangerous. And proof as well that Bitcoin has dwindled a little bit. Great Escape, thank you for coming. Bitcoin now has only 3,400 daily NFT traders. It is ranked number 5 over the last 24 hours. And by the way, there were times this year where Bitcoin was number 1, especially when things like runes and inscriptions are pumping. Now it's fallen down way below Polygon, Ethereum, and Base. And of course, Solana is still number 1, but no surprise there. Lummis, political party member. I honestly don't know if I think she's a senator. Yes, she is a senator. It's written right there. But she talks about how Bitcoin and digital assets are the future. And she says no retail central bank digital currencies, clear protections for self-custody wallets, and restore dollar dominance for the 21st century. And all of this can be done using digital assets. So it's so refreshing to see politicians with power embracing crypto, because that's our life raft. So embrace or die. She chose to embrace. Shout out to Cynthia Lummis. And the SEC must be under some type of weird pressure because they dropped their probe into Hiro stacks. And the SEC concluded its 3 years investigation. By the way, 3 years of heavy tax dollars being spent on nothing. Well done. Well done. And this used to be a company called Blockstack. And they raised $70 million in token sales back in 2019. And the SEC decided not to recommend an enforcement action against Hiro Systems PBC. And that's it. So it looks like they're still attacking certain crypto names and projects, but they're also beginning to step back in others. So mixed result, not bad. Let's get into the charts because I know you love the charts. Got some fun ones today. First of all, this is the story of the video today. No fear-based capitulation. And what's interesting about this time is different. What I've been saying for a year and a half, 2 years now nearly. After months of on-chain profit-taking, coins being moved at a higher price than in which they were acquired, we are on the cusp of enticing a regime of net realized losses. That's the green line. When it turns red, that means there's net realized losses. But we are in the middle of a bull market shakeout. But we haven't gone red, which makes it a little bit different. And the significance here is investors are wary of realizing losses during bull markets. They're like smarter. During 2016, 2017, 2020, 2021, there were multiple drawdowns throughout, and people maybe thought it was the top of the bull. So they were okay biting the bullet and taking it in the shorts and realizing losses. But why this time is different, I believe, and I'm just looking at the chart here and interpreting it. In bull markets, again, investors are generally less fearful of losses. Previous patterns, you can see here in the red, show brief periods of losses often marked the bottom of price dips. Now, the investors are reluctant to sell at a loss during a bull run, and instead, they're actually using dips to buy. They consider them buying opportunities, or the old buy the dip analogy. And some people buy the dip and then it keeps on dipping and then they get upset. But that's part of markets, okay? It's designed to mess with your head. Spartane, thank you so much for coming. So no fear-based capitulation. We are still hanging in there. And from Quinten on Twitter, X as I call it, he posted this chart, the rainbow chart. And per the rainbow chart, Bitcoin is going to $150,000 minimum this bull run. When will it hit? 2025, perhaps. As arrow points to 2025. And the all-time high typically is 547 days after the halving. I will show you my little halving chart, post-halving chart. We are at 85 days now. It's been a weird one. But to prove it's even more weird, and to prove this time is different, everybody, and we can blame Germany. And we love Germans, of course, but we don't maybe like German governments. But hello, anybody who's out there from Germany. But this is the worst Bitcoin post-halving ever so far. That's the black line down at the bottom from the team at Blockware. It sucks. I shared a different graphic yesterday showing where we are. Normally, post-halving, Bitcoin goes up, but the 90 days after can be choppy. But this is the worst ever. The worst ever. Now, why does Bitcoin price go up after the halving? Well, the supply is cut in half, and if the demand remains equal, the price goes up. It's basic law of economics. That's why. Let's not complicate it further. But let's dig into my crude, simple chart. And I always say the simplest charts are the best. Don't put 100 lines in a page. So I got my red line vertical. That's the halving. The other red line that going up is the 200-day moving average. We are still under the 200-day moving average right now. And that's critical to get above that. And I'm hoping we can this weekend. We got real close a couple of days ago. We actually got rejected off it twice. We just need to keep tapping that glass and break through it. And then we get back up to the short-term holder cost basis. But that big red box there is the all-time high of Bitcoin, which happened before the halving, and then the floor price. And we are actually beneath the so-called, what I call the floor price right now. But the key is we're 85 days after the halving. And I did promise you, once we get to 90 days, well, I shouldn't say promise, it's a bit of a strong word, but once we get to the 90 days after, things will settle down, and then we should get onto a normal trajectory of post-halving action. But this time we've had some headwinds. The miners were caught a little bit off guard. The miners have capitulated. Germany dumped a truckload of Bitcoin. And there's some other stuff. Mt. Gox fears too, which may still come. A little bit of Gemini stuff. Whatever. We're going to make it through. Just need to be patient. But there's some good, interesting tailwinds too. First of all, let's analyze the options like I like to do. This is Bitcoin options for Christmas on Deribit. I shouldn't say Christmas, the 27th of December, 2024. Let's call it the Christmas period. Open interest by strike. A couple of things you can see here, real clear. 105,000 is still the big bogey for December. Some people even betting on $270,000, $280,000. A lot of action around the $75,000 mark, $90,000, $95,000. But a ton of bets are made at 105,000. So take that as you will. These Deribit options traders have been on the money for the last 24 months, especially during the bear. And they are forecasting things like, $55,000, $60,000 Bitcoin price at the halving, and they were almost bang on. So somebody is expecting a good, let's say, latter half of the year. Now, Germany, the Bitcoin gone, just to see the chart, boom, has sent the last of their wallet. Now, what has been happening, sometimes they've been sending stuff out of their wallet and then it comes back a day later or 12 hours later. I don't think it's going to boomerang. It's pretty clear their intent is to empty their wallet. So we are grateful that that headwind is now gone. So everybody crack a big German beer tonight and celebrate. And I hope you enjoyed the dip. Let's look at the Bitcoin balance on exchanges. Something else that has also changed over the last couple of weeks. The balance of Bitcoin on the Binance exchange has increased from 648,000 Bitcoin to 687,000 Bitcoin just in a month. Big spike. So the fear of kind of supply crunch has been put off for a while. OTC desks are replenished because of things like Germany dumping, and the exchanges now have a balance. Some people get nervous when the exchanges have a big balance because that means people will dump it, but maybe not. We'll see. Interesting stuff as well to keep an eye on. And Bitcoin energy gravity, we'll talk a bit about the miners now because it's so important. This is the typical hosting rate today. The Bitcoin energy gravity is To produce one Bitcoin, you need to burn about $50,500 worth of energy for one Bitcoin. And the green line shows the average cost to mine that one Bitcoin with a latest generation Bitcoin mining rig. The orange line shows how many dollars of output miners are able to earn for each kilowatt hour of power input. And it's always interesting to see what's happening. And what's also unusual is for the orange line to be so low at this stage of the bull. Therefore, good times ahead. Pretty much guaranteed, unless everything is completely different this time around. And a little bit of other news as well. Miners, and everybody's asking, when's the next miner update? It's a lot of work. We're working on it. We'll have it out next week. Quick miner update. But this one is a nice little status from Bitcoin and markets, and it shows you the performance of WAGMI, which is a fund of miners, Core Scientific, Marathon, MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin. And you can see that the miners have outperformed both MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. MicroStrategy had a bit of a pump with the 10-for-1 stock split coming, which is very exciting. It also had a great day yesterday and today. So, and in full disclosure, I hold MicroStrategy and very much enjoy holding MicroStrategy and the volatility that goes along with it. Now, what else is going to help us send it in the latter half of this year? This, and I've been talking a lot about the interest rate odds because they've been changing so radically. 5 days ago, I said 80% chance of a cut in September. Guess what it is now? 94.4% chance. Boom, it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Really a big deal. And at least a lot of people now are talking about a 50 basis point cut. It hasn't just gone from 25 basis points, but to 50. And that'll be a kind of a turbo boost to the market's risk assets as we go forward. And why do they need to cut? Well, this is a beautiful little math calculation from Kobesi. You can see here that the cost of debt right now for the US is $1.14 trillion. Ta-da! And it's going vertical. Even if they cut, this is still going to 1.5 trillion, which is twice the US military defense budget. And believe me, that's a lot of money. This is all the money you need to rebuild every school and hospital in the country and maybe educate people better, which I'm a big believer in, and that's why I make these videos too. So, enough of that. And Bitfarms, so getting back to the miners as well. Bitfarms has appointed Ben Gagnon, who I think he was the interim CEO, but he's the 5th CEO in 5 years. And you know I like numbers. You can see here, Bitfarms has been up and down. It did spike a little bit with the news of Riot trying to buy them. And they also are coming out with some new change of plans. Every time a new CEO comes in, etc., they have a new chief mining officer as well. They want to turn things around, and Bitfarms has struggled. It's down about 20% year to date, in stark contrast to some of the other Bitcoin miners like Iris and CleanSpark, etc. But in their press release, Bitfarms set forward expectations that they will expand and diversify revenue streams, citing energy generation, heat recycling, energy trading, and guess what? HPC, ladies and gentlemen. Every miner is now pivoting to AI, which is HPC is high performance compute. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. I'll continue to say it too. So HPC. Miners pivoting, diversifying makes them lower risk, more avenues to money. But at the same time, remember, you can get all excited about the pivot to AI, but this will become commoditized, just like Bitcoin mining. So it'll still remain survival of the fittest. And remember, Bitcoin miners getting into HPC are up against the big dogs, all the big dogs. Now, Bitcoin and proxy playlist will be up here afterwards. Let's talk about the ETFs and the black hole that's sucking in all the Bitcoin. First of all, very strong week for the ETFs on the rational route here. All across the board, everybody kind of positive, with the exception of Grey Dump, Skunk Scale to get that name wrong. I don't know. Stinking up the room as usual, as they do. And day 126 raw numbers. You can see here, very, very good day yesterday, up 80 million, 150 million the day before, 216 the day before that, 300 million the day before that, 150 the day before that. It's been very, very strong, very solid recovery. Another view of what this looks like. We don't quite have the big spikes we had day 35 to 40 or so, or day 90 to 100, but we're getting back there. Things are beginning to peak up again. BlackRock has been very active and they're buying a lot. This one I haven't shown in a while, but the pink line I have now configured as a power series, and it is turning up nicely, and it's a better perspective. It was pointing down for the longest time. Now it's beginning to flatten out and then hopefully start perking up as well. In terms of how many Bitcoin were taken from the system yesterday, 1,376, which is exactly 3 times daily issuance. You can't make these numbers up. And again, a lot of the ETFs are sucking in a lot of Bitcoin once again after that terrible 105 to day 115 episode where we had a record-breaking 11 days straight down, out, negative. That's turned around, which is good. And remember, when they cut rates, there's a lot of money, 7 trillion on the sidelines that will be looking for a home where they can get alpha return. Bitcoin will be one of those homes. Doc Intern, good to see you, buddy. And speaking of skunk scale, they had a bit of a light dump yesterday, another 37 million. But compared to history, not too bad as well. And you can see that pink line trending. And there's no big deviations from that. They have the odd positive day, the odd negative day, but it doesn't really have a huge impact anymore because the other players are far outperforming their consumption. Just for example, you can see the average dumps for Grayscale over the past 5 days is approximately minus 20 million. And you look at BlackRock, they're sucking in approximately plus 70 million a day. So BlackRock alone, even Fidelity, is sucking in way more than Grayscale will ever dump. So that's the Bitcoin story for today, everybody. Hope you like the content. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Doc Intern. Thank you, Sean Donnelly. Thank you, TND Tesla. Thank you, K8. Appreciate you all. It's the weekend. Let's go have a good time. And remember, weekend pumps are here. We had one weekend where it went down. Last weekend, I think Saturday was good and Sunday sucked because of Germany. But Germany is now flushed. So let's go have a good time. Enjoy. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.